Let me ask you a question. Have you ever wondered why you are the way you are? Why is it that when you look at your siblings, you find them being so different from you? When you look at the reactions they have to certain situations, you would never behave like that, would you? When you look at your past and discuss it with your siblings, they seem to have a completely different opinion of what really happened. How is that possible? Even if you look at your kids, if you have them, you'll find you get along very well with some of them and are often at complete loggerheads with maybe one of them. And you can't understand why. You've loved them both the same way. It can go as far as even your colleagues and your bosses. Sometimes you just don't like your boss. He might be an okay person, but there's something which puts you off. Well, I think all of us go through this. And the reason perhaps can be just an aspect of your upbringing, which is your birth order. Birth order is, in a way, like a program. You're programmed to behave in a particular way. It doesn't mean that all people will follow it, but it's a rule, it's a principle. And there are many things which will affect it. For instance, how much of space is there, what is the gender, the situations, a lot of things. But in principle, it's a beautiful power and a very powerful principle. I think everybody should study this. I think it helps us understand our siblings better. It helps us understand our bosses better. And it also enables us to feel a certain sense of compassion for ourselves as well as for our family members, our friends and colleagues. The fact is, a family is like a tree. And the parents are like the tree trunk. They hold the entire thing together. But all the branches, you've never seen a tree which grows, where all the branches are growing in the same direction. So all the branches are children, all flowering and, growing in different directions. And they're all okay. So this learning bite is about birth order. It's the first universe that we have. When we open our eyes, when we take birth. This is the first universe that we find. And our interaction with the rest of the world as we grow up is based on our interactions with the people in this house. Birth order affects us in a million different ways. And I think every aspect of our lives is touched by it. Whether it's your career, whether it's your personality, your choice of spouse, your choice of, your creativity, your hobbies, everything can get affected by the birth order. Now, what is it that we'll be covering in this learning bite? We'll talk about the psychologists who came up with this idea for the first time. We'll be talking about the birth order itself, the strengths and weakness of each member, like the firstborn, the secondborn, and the thirdborn, and what kind of careers they very often choose or end up choosing. We'll also be looking at what happens if the birth order doesn't seem to fit in. Like you say that this person is a firstborn, but he's behaving like a secondborn, and if the secondborn is behaving like a firstborn. So that is another very important aspect of it that we'll be discovering in this series. So let us start with a bit of history. Who was the first person who talked about birth order? Well, it's been there for a long time. But the first person to talk about it was Alfred Adler in 1870. He was the second of 6 children, and he observed his own family and his surroundings, and he said that unless you look at a person in totality of his environment, his intimate relationships, his parents, the education of his parents, the lifestyle of his parents, it's very difficult to understand him. He said that every child who comes into this world is looking for one thing. He's looking for validation, he's looking for love, he's looking for his own place in the sun. And because of the birth order, sometimes he has to look for different ways of finding his own identity. Adler's passion for this subject, for his area of study, was so intense that it gave rise to a completely new branch of psychology called individual psychology. And his research is referred to as Adlerian psychology. In this Learning Bite, we'll be focusing on the psychology of the eldest child, the firstborn child. How does he behave? How does he think? How does he grow up being the hero of the house? So let's start. So let's start with the firstborn. What's the thing about the firstborn? Do you remember how it was when you had your first child? If you did, you're so excited. You were young. You really wanted this child, and everything about this baby was unique. You had never seen the most perfect pair of toes, the little fingers. You remember everything about the first child. It's almost magical, that experience of becoming a parent. The first time you have a baby, you're not very experienced as a parent. Everything that the child does is not only amazing, but in a way it's a little scary. So you tend to be very protective. A little cough, a little sniff here and there, and you're off to the doctor. If you look at the skill, if the child learns a new skill, the entire neighborhood has to be brought in and shown that skill. Well, the first child is the first child. But how does it impact this little baby, that prince, the hero? He is continuously under the watchful eye of the parents. Everything that he does, he's overprotected. He has no siblings to learn from. He has to learn by observing his parents. Yeah? And how does that impact him? He tends to become a little perfectionist. He'll be good at studies. He wants approval of his parents all the time. So he'll be good at his studies, doing the right things, always very conscientious about everything. You can almost recognize a firstborn by the way he dresses. It'll be always in perfect order. So what do you think the firstborn will choose as a career? Well, if you see, you'll find them mostly the best educated in the house. They will take up conservative careers. For instance, being engineers, being doctors, technical heads, vice presidents. They're natural born leaders. It's natural, obviously. But the choice of careers will be safe. The reason why they will choose the careers is because they are safe careers. Working with the government, for instance, is a safe option. So what are the problems which a firstborn might face? Well, they were the firstborn. There's no sin that they can do. They're perfect. They get the maximum number of compliments, attention, and they just can't take criticism sometimes. They find it very difficult to accept any form of criticism. And if they can't take criticism, the world tends to become a little black and white, if you know what I mean. It's like you're right or you're wrong. There's no midway. Because they are the eldest. They are perfect. Their opinion is perfect. So with this, we come to the end of this Learning Bite. Just to recap, we talked about the psychology of the eldest born in the family. What affects him or her? In the next one, we'll be talking about the middle children and the last born. or the youngest in the house, the baby of the house? What are the different pressures that they go through? We'll also be talking about the only borns. That means they don't have any siblings, they're the only children in the house. And also, what happens if you have more than 3 children in the house, or the pattern, this formula of birth order doesn't fit. We'll be talking a lot more in detail about these concepts, which are, I promise you, extremely interesting. So thank you so much for watching, and I thoroughly enjoyed presenting it to you. So we shall see you next week.